proud because a lot of people know about the star that don't live in Virginia. You know, they've heard about it, they come here just to look at it.
I used to play a lot of music in town, and me and a buddy of mine used to go up there and practice at night. Those just brings back really nice memories of when I first moved here.
It's a landmark for Roanoke and the surrounding area, and always has memories. I mean, even when you were young, you used to take your girlfriend up there.
I was on Williamson Road over near the old Virginia train station there, the old depot, and I was sitting in the car with my parents, and we just sat there and waited for the lights to turn on with everybody else lined up on the street, and it was just wonderful. We just thought it was the greatest thing that had happened.
The star has been overlooking the Roanoke Valley for nearly 3 generations. This November, it will be 58 years old. It's the Christmas decoration that Roanoke residents would not let the city take down. I'm Denise Allen Membreno. In this Cox Communications presentation, we are looking back at the making of Roanoke's Mill Mountain Star. Roy C. Kinsey Sr. and his wife Macy had driven south early in the summer of 1949. On the way back to Roanoke, they made a stop in Tennessee. That visit would bring about a major change to the Roanoke landscape.
Chattanooga has a little mountain a little further out from town than Mill Mountain is, and not near as impressive, but it had a display on it. And Dad saw that display on the mountain down there, and that gave him the idea that a display on Mill Mountain would really be outstanding.
Ted Mumau, president of the Roanoke Retail Merchants Association, thought so as well. The idea quickly caught on with city business owners and Roanoke residents. So Roy Kinsey Sr. and his 3 sons, Bob, Warren, and Roy Jr., started to build the star before any money had been raised.
They started out with a target raising $25,000, and they raised that. It turned out it cost a little more than that, but without much difficulty. Of course, 25 then was maybe 100 or 200 today, but the merchants chipped in.
The final cost turned out to be between $27,000 and $28,000. It was a bold step for a small community.
The Retail Merchants Association had an annual budget that they used in some form to advertise the city. In other words, they'd buy brochures, put out advertising of some sort, and they more or less just said, well, this year let's just devote our budget to this, and for our Christmas decorations and for our advertising at the same time.
The development of the Mill Mountain Star was one of George Kegley's first stories in Roanoke. He came to the Roanoke Times in the fall of 1949.
We knew it was a big story. It was obviously a big step for Roanoke, coming right 4 years after the end of World War II. And there was a time of growth. Everything was growing, construction, the community was growing, and this seemed to be symbolic of it.
With a lot of work, everything fell into place. Robert Little, chief structural engineer for Roanoke Iron and Bridge, designed and built the frame. Jefferson Electrical Company was the electrical contractor, providing all the primary wiring. Kinsey Sign Company supplied the transformers, secondary wiring, and the neon, and of course the idea to make it a 5-point star. Bob Kinsey says his dad was fascinated by them and often told his sons a story about a conversation between George Washington and Betsy Ross.
There were 2 designs, but the one that we ended up with was the Betsy Ross type flag. It was a Bennington flag, which is a little different, but not a whole lot. But George was talking to her about it, and they were discussing the stars and the stripes and so forth. And Betsy said, let's make them 5-point stars, because I can fold a piece of cloth with one snip of the scissors to cut a 5-point star.
Warren says his dad was an innovator. The business Roy Sr. started has lasted 100 years, first under the moniker the Kinsey Sign Company. Now his grandsons run Kinsey Crane and Sign Company.
We had the first neon sign shop in Virginia, state of Virginia. He brought a German in to do the glass work. We had no glass blowers in the country then, and he couldn't speak English, but we had the first neon sign manufacturing plant in the state of Virginia.
In 1949, Roy Sr. was turning an idea into reality. The idea, a star on top of Mill Mountain, would become his legacy.
One of the first things we had to do was convince them how large it needed to be. Didn't we put something about 25 feet up over where the old lookout is, just to show them how insignificant something that size?
You would see, yeah, I think so. I don't remember much about that part of it, but I was thinking of it.
Visualize how big something needs to be in order to be visible at a long distance.
When we return, the pieces quickly come together.
We finished at 6 o'clock on Wednesday evening before Thanksgiving. And it has never been turned on prior. The whole star hadn't been tested or turned on.
It was probably one of the few things that were available for us to do here when I was growing up, and it was considered a family outing.
Growing up as a child and seeing the star unfortunately turn red, meaning there'd been a traffic fatality, and it burned, I think, for 3 days in the event that happened. I like looking at the star now and remembering that it brings about a sense of our community, but it also did then, even though it was a sad omen.
Roanoke Star stands on top of Mill Mountain. The mountain was named for the mills that were established at its base in the area's early years. The first one was built there around 1755. Flour and grist mills operated until 1886, when the last remaining mill was destroyed by fire. Mill Mountain stands 1,746 feet and remains, for the most part, undeveloped. In 1941, J.B. Fishburne donated a 100-acre tract of land on top of the mountain to the city of Roanoke. The terms stated that the area be known as Mill Mountain Park and be forever preserved, improved, and maintained for the use and pleasure of the people of the region. The star fit perfectly into those guidelines, but it became quite a feat to get the star to where it stands today. It took 7 weeks to build and several days of work to put it together on Mill Mountain. Before it was taken to the mountain, the Kinseys assembled it at Roanoke Airport, the only place big enough.
We took the star, all the faces, took them out there and laid them down, face down, and then put all the angles on them out there to fasten to the steel framework, then brought it back.
The star was brought up the mountain on these trucks, but the long steel frame was too big to bring up winding Prospect Road. So Roanoke Iron and Bridge used a logging path off of Yellow Mountain Road to bring the frame to the top of Mill Mountain. The footings are made up of 127 yards of concrete. Only 2 yards at a time could be brought up the mountain. This was made possible by World War II trucks converted into cement mixers. The grounding cables inside the footers come with a little history as well.
Just a little while before that, they'd taken down the streetcars in Roanoke, and the junkyard had a whole lot of copper trolley wire. Well, we buried a batch of copper trolley wire under every footer up there, brought it up and hooked it to the steel. And to this day, the star, as far as we know, has never been damaged by lightning.
With as much grounding as we did, it never builds up a positive charge.
Oh, wow.
I know it ran in on the electric line and blew the meter one time, but it didn't strike the star itself.
The star was assembled on top of Mill Mountain and attached to the frame. Roanoke Iron and Bridge raised the star with a crane. The work was finished at 6 o'clock on Thanksgiving Eve, November 23, 1949. 2 hours and 22 minutes later, the Mill Mountain Star cast its first light on assembled dignitaries and the city below. Actor, singer, and Roanoke native John Payne, fresh off his role as Fred Gailey, the lawyer who defended Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street, was on hand for the ceremony.
Bob and Roy met with John Payne. Was John Payne?
Yeah.
John Payne, and had the opening ceremony up there and turned on the star.
Where were you?
At home.
At home?
At the time, I had an awful hernia, and I was suffering like a dickens from it, and I managed to finish the star before I went and had it operated on.
Wow.
And I went, at 6 o'clock, I was gone. I went home. Because I lived out there, I could look right straight at the star. I saw it light all right.
The retired Congressman Clifton Woodrum, Chip Woodrum's grandfather, had a major role in Mayor Minton. And, it was just a very big event.
With the simple phrase, "It is indeed a rare privilege to start Roanoke Star on its mission of progress," Mayor A.R. Minton threw the switch, lighting the star for the first time.
He had a dummy switch in his hand, and I was standing up, hid up behind the switch for the gearbox. I turned it on, but he thought he turned it on, but he just was working a dummy switch.
Did he realize he was working a dummy switch?
No, he didn't know. We didn't. He didn't know.
As an advertising gimmick, the star worked well and quickly. At the time, Representative Clifton Woodrum compared it to the Star of Bethlehem. And figuratively, the Mill Mountain Star was seen around the world. Pilots reported seeing the star from Martinsville while flying at an altitude of 6,000 feet. Publications across the United States covered the lighting of the star. It even made news in Australia.
It was covered in Life magazine, and national publications had something about it. Lowell Thomas, a very popular radio news commentator at the time, reported on this, and everybody listened to Lowell Thomas before television. And I guess he reported, someone did, that you could see it from the air 75 miles away, and we were all impressed by that. That you could see anything from Roanoke 75 miles away seemed to be pretty significant.
The Mill Mountain Star was originally a Christmas decoration. The Roanoke Retail Merchants Association thought of it as a way to kick off the holiday shopping season. It was actually part of a series of decorations Kinsey Sign Company did for the city. Roy Jr. was in charge of making the 3-foot stars. They were made with neon on both sides in the colors of red, green, and blue. They were made to hang on light posts.
We didn't have the light poles originally, and we had an awful time hanging them up in different places because there wasn't any poles to hang them on.
Initially, it was unclear whether the star would shine just during the holiday season or remain a guiding light throughout the year. Roanokers quickly fell in love with it, and the star became a year-round fixture. The original colors of the star were red and white. In 1957, the Roanoke Valley Citizens Traffic Safety Council enlisted the star to notify residents of traffic fatalities in the city. The Merchants Association agreed to burn the star red for a 2-day mourning period. The 15-month trial turned into a 17-year program. When a fatality occurred, the police called the Roy C. Kinsey Sign Company. The sign company then sent someone to flip a switch at the base of the star to change the color. When President John F. Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, the star burned red for 3 days. In 1986, it burned red for 5 days after the crash of the Challenger space shuttle. When the Merchants decided to change the star for the bicentennial, the red designation for traffic deaths ended. Blue was added to the star in celebration of the United States bicentennial in 1976. Since then, the star has glowed red, white, and blue in recognition of Roanoke earning the All-American City Award, an honor it has received a record 5 times. Coming up, the star gets a facelift, and Star Watchers are a vocal group.
Keep it burning. Don't let it go out, keep it burning.
It was nostalgic because when I was a kid, I have family here, so when I was a kid, we would come down for special events, and I saw it when I was a kid, so it was like, I guess, a welcoming sight.
My wife, at her bachelorette party, took a bus up there, and they all looked out from the stars, so I think that was a memory she would have. I've been up there a couple times, but nothing, out of the ordinary.
So you think that's what she did on her bachelorette party?
My dad was with her for that part.
It's absolutely beautiful, and it's still beautiful, and when it was down, like there was something missing out of the Roanoke Valley. And anytime you're flying in and out of Roanoke, it's a beautiful sight to see.
On Thanksgiving Eve, November 23, 1949, dignitaries gathered at the top of Mill Mountain to mark the lighting of what was then called the largest man-made star in the universe. Crowds congregated on city streets at the base of the mountain where loudspeakers broadcast the ceremony. Traffic stopped on many streets. When Bob Kinsey flipped the secret switch that actually illuminated the star, Roanokers watched in awe. The Star City of the South was born. The advertising campaign quickly caught on with businesses, and just days after the lighting, store ads in the Roanoke Times sported the star's likeness. 20 years after it wowed Roanokers, 2 studies suggested moving the star. Both the 1965 Stanley Abbott Plan and the revised 1969 Department of City Planning Master Development Plan called for the star to be replaced by a restaurant. Of course, the star was never moved, but the studies continued. After 6 months and $35,000, a consultant study in 1990 determined citizens wanted Mill Mountain preserved rather than developed. 7 years later, the star received $60,000 of work, including improvements to the neon tubing, electrical wiring, metalwork, and paint. Despite its critics, the star has survived the test of time to become one of Roanoke's biggest attractions.
You'll get 50 to 60 people visiting the star every day. It's really amazing. I have a security guard that works for me, and he drives up there at night frequently just to check and make sure that there's no that no one's littering or drinking on site or that sort of thing, and and keeps it safe for everyone. And he is always reporting that there sometimes are busloads of folks that come up, and they'll come up at night and unload and go look at the star.
In the early years, heading to Mill Mountain was a family outing. The Rockledge Inn opened in May 1892. Roanoke Gas and Water Company built the 2-story, 25-room hotel on top of the mountain. It was mostly a summer resort because of the treacherous road conditions in the winter. The Rockledge Inn fell into decline after the Depression. In 1964, a group of citizens converted the vacant hotel into a recreation center. It also became the home of Mill Mountain Theater until it was destroyed by fire 12 years later. In connection with Rockledge, an incline railway up the mountainside opened March of 1910. 2 cable cars, one going up and one coming down, could carry 60 passengers each every half hour. The 4-minute ride cost 25 cents. A concrete road up the mountain would spell the end of the incline. The owners of the mountain at the time, W.P. Henritz and John Henritz, constructed a toll road in 1924 at the cost of $90,000. With the new road, there was no need for an incline. In 1929, it was dismantled. All that remains is a bare strip on the mountainside. Many Roanokers enjoyed spending the day at Mountain Park Amusement Place. It was operated at the base of Mill Mountain from 1902 to 1923. The park boasted a wooden roller coaster called the Thriller. Residential development in South Roanoke forced the park out of business. Visitors come to present-day Mill Mountain to hike, visit the Mill Mountain Zoo or the Discovery Center, an educational center offering environmental exhibits as well as programs and classes which promote awareness of the natural resources that make up Mill Mountain. And what would a visit to Mill Mountain be without a stop at the Roanoke Star Overlook? The star shines from 8:30 at night until midnight during daylight savings, and from 6 p.m. to midnight the other months of the year. It has done so since November of 1949. The only exception was when the star was turned off in voluntary compliance during the energy crisis of 1973. August 12, 2006, the city would dim the star once again. $100,000 in renovations was needed. The city of Roanoke stretched its public relations muscles to let the citizens know what was happening.
I did get a few calls, one lady that wanted to have a wedding reception there, and another lady that was inviting some folks in from, I think, California, and wanted to take them to the star, and she wanted to know for sure that it would be burning when they arrived on the trips.
Originally, our scope of our contract was to redo all of the electrical on the back side of the star. They were having problems with the transformers and the wiring. That was original scope. Once we got about 80% complete with that, we had some issues with the neon on it not matching the new transformers.
Many of the components that were up there had been there since 1949. I know some of the old stuff is better than some of the new that we make, but I was still a little worried. 1949 vintage equipment, you begin to wonder, you know, is there going to be that day when everything goes out and you can't get it up and running again?
The city took over ownership of the Star from the Roanoke Merchants Association in 1982. As Roanoke's facilities manager, it is Gareth McAllister's job to keep it shining.
When I came to work here, the sort of public let me become real aware, real quick, of how important it was. And I say that because whenever a single bulb would be out on the Star, you'd get a call either that night or the next morning. Did you know that there was, you know, a little piece of the Star?
The city had been studying the Star's need for major renovations since 2004. Virginia Electrical Services won the bid on the Star renovation project. VES had also worked on Roanoke's other neon landmarks, both the H&C Coffee and Dr. Pepper signs. The 2 weeks of work on the Star included taking down 50 electrical transformers, removing old wires, as well as cracked and decaying conduit, which is supposed to shield the wires from the elements.
As transformers would go bad, it was hard to find the old style transformers. The new style have what they call ground fault protection in them, and they will not work with the existing wiring or the old wiring that was on the Star.
Working on the Star was challenging and gave these modern-day electricians new respect for the guys who built the Star.
There's not a ladder you can just climb to get up there to work. Everything was done hanging from a rope or a thin plank that you're walking up there with safety equipment on. Then you have to hoist your tools up. If you want to move 10 feet away, it might take you 10 minutes to move over there. So every little thing is quite a bit more strenuous and time-consuming.
Simmons' crew was on the job longer than expected. The need to replace the neon brought the total cost of the renovation project to $130,000 and increased the length of time the Star would remain dark. But the promise of a more vibrant Star was just ahead.
A lot of the old neon had leaked down. Quite a few pieces were actually missing or broken, and all of it did not burn at one time. Now that it is all new, it's complete, to say the least, so it appears to be brighter from the valley.
Simmons says he's never done a more public job. 50 or 60 people a day would come watch the work. Some would ask questions. He says it's their Star, and they wanted to know about it.
The attention we got from it, and then just the fact that the project we were working on was the Star, and we've always seen it and been around it as well as everyone else here in the valley, and now we were the ones actually there doing it, so there's a whole lot of pride taken in doing it.
Simmons and his crew felt more than satisfaction when the job was complete.
The first evening wasn't anyone there except for our crew, and we lit it just for a few minutes right after dusk, and just everything came on, and all the red, white, and blue came on together just like we were hoping, and it came up and it was real pretty, and just a relief that it was done and we could turn it back over, and
it worked.
And it worked. Yeah.
Did you all cheer?
Yeah, somewhat, yeah. In our own little way, I guess. It's more like a big sigh. But
Roanoke Star is not the largest man-made star anymore. A star in El Paso, Texas spans 459 feet. It is not on a permanent steel structure. The Texas Star consists of 459 frost-white 150-watt light bulbs strung between poles on the side of Mount Franklin. The Mill Mountain Star stands as it always has, 88 1/2 feet, and weighs 10,000 pounds. It has 2,000 feet of neon and uses 17,500 watts of power. The Star is mounted on a 100-foot, 60,000-pound steel frame and can be seen for 60 miles from the air. The Star is made up of 3 inlaid star-shaped frames, a star within a star within a star. Each frame contains 2 white burning tubes and 1 red. Red burns brighter, so only one tube is needed. The only part of the star that glows in blue is the inner portion, which contains 2 blue tubes. The star mainly shines in white, but with a flip of a switch, illuminates the other colors. No matter what color it burns, Roanokers love the star. Gareth McAllister believes strong feelings for the landmark started in the words of Representative Clifton Woodrum on the night of the dedication.
As we enter the season of Thanksgiving and Christmas tide, let us fervently pray that the light of the star shall be an inspiration to us as a people, a community, and as individuals to rededicate our lives to the spirit of useful service and everlasting peace.
The star is a beacon that welcomes travelers home. What started as a Christmas decoration has come to represent peace, progress, and economic prosperity. It started a new era, helping Roanoke transition from the magic city of the railroad heydays to a new economy as the Star City of the South. I'm Denise Allen Membreno. Thanks for looking back with Cox Communications on the making of Roanoke's Mill Mountain Star.